Here's a gem bit. It turns out that the color red is so powerful that the United States Marine Corps used it as a weapon. During World War II, they issued red lipstick called Montezuma Red to all their WMs or women Marines. It turns out that Adolf Hitler hated red lipstick. Wow, a woman Marine in red lipstick. Now that's a weapon for you. Discover the value of your story.
Increase. So this award lets me know that
Good morning. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Ni hao. Hola. Bienvenue. Wan Ying, bienvenidos, bienvenita, namaste, and welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And each and every week, I get the magnificent opportunity to take the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry, and put it all together into a story. What I've learned over the years, what I learned each and every week I do this show, is that the same characteristics, many of the same traits and the attributes that we highly praise in gemstones can be applied to people. You can find those gemstones in people, in yourself. So what I do is I take those gem stories and use them as a template, as an inception point, as a bridge to help people to empower people, to sometimes remind people of the value of their own stories, of who they are, of how they interact with the light. I want to start out today thanking all of you who subscribe to the show, who watch the show each and every week, who sometimes I've heard texts people binge on the shows. Thank you. I'm honored to bring this, what I think is an art form that's not really recognized to the level it should be, to all of you. And I also like to tell you thank you for your comments, your posts, because as I say all the time, that this show really is a journey. Each and every week I do this show. It's like I'm getting on a plane. Sometimes it feels like a spaceship called the USS Gemology, and I'm learning. It's really more of a time machine because I'm learning so much more each week about just what gemstones mean to the world, what gemstones can mean to each and every one of us. Last week, after the show, I had a couple of viewers, one a new viewer, one a longtime viewer from the beginning. And the longtime viewer said to me first, she says, Barry, how come you always talk about gemstones with women? You make the analogy of gemstones with women. You never talk about men. And when she said it, it was almost like a slap in the face, because not in a negative way, but just a wake-up call, because she was right. Then a new viewer said the same thing. She says, when are you going to start talking about men? And I thought about it for a while and just said, why not? Why aren't I talking about men? Now, to be honest, full disclosure, this show was really created out of a desire and a mission to talk about women on a higher level, talk about women on a higher frequency. Because as a man, I'm kind of tired and beyond tired with just the things that you hear that women go through, in the 21st century. So I wanted to figure out a non-confrontational way to elevate people, to get people to see their own value, people in general, but particularly women, because for me, it's easier. It's easier for me to see the link. It's easier for me to see the analogy between women and gemstones, because women are beautiful. Women are graceful. Women are elegant. I love the different varieties of women in regards to their shapes, their skin colors, things of this. But I do you and myself a disservice by not talking about men and the role that men has played in this incredible science, in this incredible profession. Thank you, Barbara. So I entitled this show "Men Really Love Gemstones." Because, and I know it's a simple title. It's actually, in the Facebook post I put, here's the secret: men really love gemstones. Because when you really look at the history of gemstones, of precious metals, of fine jewelry, you can't even talk about it really without seeing how men played a huge part, played just 90% of the history of gemstones and gemology really starts with men. When you look at when you talking about something like, and this is my logo, as you guys know, this is my logo. This is more than a logo. This is a symbol. For me, it's almost like a religious symbol. The whole history of mankind really revolves around these gemstones: rubies, which of course is a gemstone this month; sapphire, emerald at the 6 o'clock position; citrine, which is quartz, which all the computer equipment, what we're on right now, is quartz, your watch, things of this; diamonds; and of course, gold. And when you look at that and really take it apart, you see men. You see men as a part of it. This is Julius Caesar. And I told you that Julius Caesar, who was an emperor of all of Rome, most powerful general in all of Rome, he had hundreds of women. He had 500 women, and he had one of his main girl, his main squeeze, for those of you old school, was this woman named Sevilla. And what he had to do was trade a black pearl, which was huge, supposedly the biggest black pearl in the history of the world. He traded her. He loved her so much that he gave the kidnappers that pearl. And when they estimate what that pearl would have been worth based on the money that he paid, or based on what it was worth in those days, it was worth about $500 million, $500 million for this woman. And just to let you know, this woman was the mother, suspected the mother of Brutus. Yes, that Brutus, et tu Brutus. Imagine, supposedly that was his son. When you look at this necklace, this beautifully heavy, large necklace. Well, this necklace right here was part of the thing that kicked off the French Revolution. The French Revolution started, I mean, there was other things, factors, but the final match, the thing that really took it over to the top was this necklace. And what happened was this is King Louis the 16th, and he was married to Marie Antoinette. And Marie Antoinette wasn't French. She was Austrian. And so the French people had, French people, you're not French, you're not French. So the French people had a problem with her. And she was just a young woman who would just like buying things, the finest of jewelry. She had bags of pearls and diamonds and her clothing and everything else. And the French people got upset and they thought that she was stealing from the French treasury. So ultimately, the French Revolution, which we just celebrated, 5 days ago, Bonne Fête Nationale in France. They don't call it Bastille Day, it's Bonne Fête Nationale. But that started from a necklace that a man literally bought, not Louis the 16th, but this archbishop bought for Marie Antoinette because he was trying to get it back into the court, back into her good graces. He thought Marie Antoinette loved him, so he bought the bracelet, the necklace, on an IOU. And of course, it was a con woman. She took the necklace, and her accomplice took the necklace, broke it up, and ultimately Marie Antoinette and her husband, Louis the 16th, lost their heads. And a whole lot of people lost their heads because the thing that started off with a necklace. This is Napoleon's sword. This is his coronation sword. Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself emperor. And this is the sword that he had. I had an opportunity to see it, to hold it in my hand when I don't know what time I was in France, but when I was at the Chateau de Fontainebleau, where this sword is stored. This is him. Here's the sword right here. The sword is right here. Look at the diamonds. Let's go back. Look at the diamonds. Men love gemstones. Because when I started thinking about it, I started realizing that I think part of the reason why I didn't talk about men and gemstones is because there's a lot of violence and all kinds of things that's involved with when men got gemstones, because what men did to get gemstones. So this is Napoleon's coronation sword, because for men especially, jewelry, gemstones mean power. Napoleon wanted to make sure that everyone understood who he was. Look at this picture. This is the day he did his coronation, when he became emperor of all France. And he wore the sword. Everything was gold and silver and gemstones. That's his sword. He didn't use it for anything else but ceremonial purposes. Look at the size of the diamonds. Look at the clarity of the diamonds. Look how many diamonds there are. Yeah. Columbus. What did Columbus come here for? Columbus, the man who literally, he didn't discover America, but he opened up the new world, a whole brand new world. What was he looking for? He was looking for gold. He was looking for gold. So when I say that the whole history of mankind revolves around rubies, emeralds, sapphires, citrine, gold, and diamonds, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And a man, Christopher Columbus was a man, and he came to America for the New World, because he never made it to America, for gold. And literally, which is a subject I don't talk about, I'm just getting ready to talk about gold, because gold is a really, really, really special metal. in regards to what gold has done to people, millions and millions and millions of people all over the world for that substance. Gold. This is Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa, if you don't know, Mansa Musa was the king, the emperor of Mali, of Timbuktu. He was the richest man in the history of the world. Mansa Musa had so much gold from the countries of Mali, Ghana, that he literally, when he went on his pilgrimage to Mecca, the whole world knew about it. He took an entourage of 60,000 people. I think he had something like 1,200 camels, and each camel had 300 pounds of gold on his bags. 300 pounds of gold on each camel. Do the math. He had so much gold by the time he got to Mecca, and he was just passing it out. Hey, how you doing? You want some gold? Here you go. Want some gold? Here you go. He was going to restaurants leaving tips, like, here's a gold bar. He left so much gold everywhere he went that he literally devalued the price of gold for 12 years. For 12 years, gold had really no value because of Mansa Musa. This is one of his lithographs that they found. This is him sitting on, and in Ghana, when you go to Ghana, the king sits on a gold stool that nobody else sits on. That's the relationship of gold. That's the relationship that men have with gemstones and precious metals and fine jewelry. The history of the world, Mansa Musa, from gold. Let's go back to Napoleon. This is called the Moi et Toi ring. Napoleon gave this ring to Josephine when he became basically a top commander, a general. He was the general of the army. And 2 weeks later, he got married, and he gave this ring. He wasn't making a lot of money as a general. He was doing okay. And he bought this diamond and sapphire ring for Josephine to declare his love. He got married, and then 2 weeks later, he had to go to, I think it was Egypt. He had to go to Egypt to fight in a war. And unfortunately, Josephine cheated on him. Josephine broke his heart. Napoleon never really mentally got over that. He got married again, but when you read about Napoleon was messed up because of women, and because he gave so much to Josephine, including making her an empress. He made her an empress. In fact, she had already cheated on him several times by the time he eventually made her an empress. And he had problems with women, no matter what he did, no matter castles, how many. So when I talk about gemstones and precious metals affecting the history of mankind, this is one of the ways, indirectly. He used to write love letters. I have a book this thick of just Napoleon's love letters to Josephine. But all the jewelry that you see Josephine and his second wife, Marie Louise, they all have things of this. He helped design this. He helped design this crown. Men love jewelry. Men love gemstones. This is the La Paragine. The La Paragine is the largest, at the time, the largest pearl, actually still is, the largest pear-shaped pearl in the world. This pearl was found in Central America, in Panama. The slave found it in Panama, gave it to, this is the way the story goes. He gave the slave gave the pearl to his slave owner. The slave owner wanted to honor the king. In this case, it was the king of Spain, Philip II, and he gave it to Philip. Now, back in those days, everybody loved pearls. And I told you quite a few episodes that back in the old days, if you had one pearl, you were rich. I mean, you were rich. If you had a string of pearls, you were Bill Gates and Elon Musk couldn't hold anything over you. That's how much money you had to have a string of pearls. So he gave it to Philip II. And Philip II liked Elizabeth I, Elizabeth of the Queen of who became the Queen of England. But Elizabeth didn't like him. Elizabeth said, "You're a creep. I'm not going to be with you." So what Philip did was he gave that pearl to Elizabeth's sister. This is Elizabeth. This is Queen Elizabeth, and you can see this is actually what she wanted to look like. The pearl was larger than this. The pearl was larger than this, but this is what she wanted. She wanted the pearl because pearls represented power. Right? Pearls represent, and so Philip II didn't give it to Elizabeth, he gave it to Mary. Mary was Elizabeth's half sister. And when you talk about the history of Mary and Elizabeth, this is the reason why the Spanish Armada, the wars between Spain and England started. Two sisters fighting over a pearl and a man. Mary was mad because Elizabeth was pretty. Elizabeth was always glamorous. Elizabeth used makeups. That was her thing. In fact, that's part of the reason why she died, because the makeup she used was toxic. She wasn't as flashy as Elizabeth I. She wasn't as but she had the pearl. She had that pearl that Philip gave to her, and she wore it all the time. There it is right there. She wore that pearl all the time. She didn't have that much time to wear it because I think she died like 2 years, 3 years later. And that pearl meant so much to her that instead of bequeathing it to Elizabeth on it like the rest of the crown jewels, she gave it back to Philip. She gave it back to Philip. So when Philip came back and said, when Elizabeth came to Philip after Mary died and said, "Hey, listen, my sister's dead and I'm mourning her. I like to keep something. I would love to have something to remember her by." He said, "Yeah, sure, no problem. You can get the pearl as long as you marry me." She said, "No, I'm still not going to marry you. You're still a creep." So Elizabeth decided, okay, I can't get the pearl from you. I'm going to find another way to get it. I'm going to find another pearl out there like that. So that's where pirates started. The whole was called pirateers because they were legalized by England over a pearl. A man having and seeing the power of that pearl and using it to his, using it to his advantage. And 200 years later, 150 years later, here's Queen Elizabeth. Here's Elizabeth Taylor wearing the La Parisienne that Richard Burton bought for her. Yeah. So, imagine the power of that gemstone on men to be able to see the power that give it to their wives, to their girlfriends, and that the power, because women understand the power of gemstones, but so do men. And that's what's never talked about. We don't talk about the power that gemstones have over men, the understanding that men understand what pearls, what gemstones can do. Take a second and think about what a man would do to get a gemstone. 14th, 15th, 16th century. He'd get on a ship with a whole bunch of, since there's a lot of women on this channel, imagine you're on this wooden ship with about 50 to 80, maybe 100 funky, nasty guys. There's no bathroom facilities. We're not talking about the Royal Caribbean with turn down service. No, we're talking about a hole. No, the poop deck. Yeah, that's why it was called the poop deck. No brushing teeth, no deodorant, nothing. Traveling the ocean over 3, 4, 5 months. There's a chance of you being shipwrecked. There's a chance of you being killed. There's a chance of you getting a huge chance of getting some disease, things like that. Going to a country that you've never been to, a land that you've never been to, you had to fight the indigenous, the land itself. You had to get there, first of all. Then once you got there, hungry, starving. It wasn't serving, continental breakfast on these ships. You got there, you landed there, place you've never been. Then you had to fight the fauna, the flora, the animals, the people, the indigenous people. Captain, who was it? Captain Hook? No, I'm sorry. Magellan got killed messing with these people over gemstones, trying to find a route to India. Yeah. all for just the hope of having a ruby in your hand. Men love gemstones. It's incredible when you read what men can do. This is what was his name? Hadashi Mikimoto. This is the guy who created cultured pearls. He felt so strongly about pearls. He knew what pearls meant because as a child, as a young boy, he was a fisherman. He was poor. He was unbelievably poor. Like he was like what we call basically a homeless person, just selling fish on the street to anybody to buy. He married someone. He was fortunate. He married someone above his grade, above his grade level, basically his class, and he wanted to honor her. So what he did was he couldn't afford pearls, so he wanted to find a way to create his own. He loved pearls so much he understood the law, the tradition, the beliefs of the power of pearls so much. Because remember, in Japan, a pearl is where their two gods, when they were creating the Japanese island, their sword dipped into the Japanese sea, and the pearls were the droppings, the water droplets that came off the sword, and that's what created the Japanese islands. So what he did was he worked at it. He studied how pearls were made. And he created a process where he was able to make pearls. He had thousands of them in order to just come up with one or two. In the whole country of Japan, after World War II, Japan was able to recover because one man loved pearls. And in the stories, there's countless stories of what men would do to get a gemstone. It wasn't just about power. It was because men, just like I read to you or I tell you about these stories of what a pearl can do, what a ruby can do. A ruby is a gemstone of courage, a gemstone of synchronicity, a gemstone that there was in the medieval days, they would take a ruby and literally impregnate it in there. I mean, beautiful. This is what Mikimoto made. He created this. He took the powers of God and felt like he could recreate it. And this is what he created. So as I was saying, the medieval guys believed in men who fought the wars. They felt so strongly about a ruby. They felt like if they impregnated their skin, if they cut a slit in their skin and put a ruby in their body underneath their skin, it would make them invincible. Invincible. Now, I don't know what happened when someone who did that process and died, like, hey, you heard Charlie died. How he died? Well, how did he die? Didn't he have a ruby in his arm? Yeah, well, he died anyhow. I don't know how that story survived all these hundreds and thousands, not thousands, but hundreds of years. But here we are. Men love gemstones. They will do anything to obtain a gemstone. The mines, traveling over oceans, climbing mountains, anything. Here's Louis the 16th. Louis the 14th, the Sun King. This is the Sun King. Ladies, everything the reason why diamonds are diamonds is because of this guy. Over pearls, he loved diamonds more than he loved pearls. I was at his house, Maison Louis the 14th. I don't the 14, I think. Okay, yeah. This is his house in it was called Saint Jean de Luz. I was there in the wintertime. That's why I have a coat on. But he went there. Everything you know about diamonds, the power of diamonds started because he loved diamonds. So one of his famous diamonds that he had wasn't this one. Sorry. Was the Hope Diamond. The Hope Diamond, which Louis Travers, who literally brought it, he stole it from India, brought it back to Louis the 14th, and this was the Hope Diamond. So the whole diamond industry, what we know in the 21st century and feel about diamonds came from a man who loved diamonds. If also Louis XIV was the person who, he was a dancer. He really also he made it more popular, the art of ballet. Louis XIV. So imagine the power of the synchronicity of men understanding what a gemstone is, understanding the energy of a gemstone, and being able to manifest that in who they were, in what they represented. And someone said to me this week, was talking about male and female gemstones. And I'll do a show on that particular, because I'm not, yes, there are gemstones that men are more apt to look at, more apt to be drawn to, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily a male or female thing. I think that if you have the energy of a sapphire, of a ruby, of a moonstone, of a bloodstone, whatever energy is that, I think it speaks to women in a certain way, and I think it also speaks to men in a certain way, because Alexander the Great's favorite gemstone was Christophage, which is a chalcedony. Is a whole. I'll show a picture of that later, where that gemstone was a green gemstone, and he attributed his success. We're talking about Alexander the Great, the man that almost conquered the known world at that time. He attributed it to a gemstone. In fact, when he lost it later on, his life changed. He attributed to losing his battle he started losing battles, especially in India, after he lost the gemstone. After he lost and that's a gemstone we consider, Christopher, we don't even consider that a precious gemstone, but he did. Napoleon loved pearls. That was his favorite gemstone, pearls. This is Maximilian I, the first Holy Roman Emperor. Maximilian, I told you this story. What you know about engagement rings started with this guy. And it wasn't, well, he actually did love Mary. Her name was Mary of Burgundy. But he didn't buy her a diamond. He didn't make an engagement ring for her. He really made it for her father, Charles, because Mary was a Habsburg. And if you know the history of Europe, the Habsburg was the ultimate family. They owned everything. So he gave it to her as a promissory gift. And then 200 years later, De Beers used it as a way to convince all of you that diamonds are forever, that if you love someone, you need to give them a diamond. So when we come, and as awesome as that is, when we come back, I'm going to show you where it really sets in, where you really begin to understand how much men love gemstones. And I'll see you on the other side. All right, we're back. Again, Mary of Burgundy. So Maximilian used the technology at the time, which this is in Bruges, it's in upper France. Bruges is actually in Belgium, but it's the northern part of France. You can I've been to Lille, which is like 15, maybe like an hour away from there. But anyhow, he used the power of gemstones, gave it to Mary of Burgundy in order to win her heart, and he did. He actually did love her. Her father was killed in battle. Charles, he was special. Anyhow, her father was killed in battle, which left her by herself, and she wrote him a letter. Please, you've given me this ring. Please let it mean something. And it did. and he married her. She died, unfortunately, 5 years later. She fell off a horse. But the power of that union was based around a gemstone. So the whole history of mankind revolves around gemstones and precious metal. But if you really want to understand the power of gemstones, all gemstones, not just one or two, all gemstones. If you really want to understand why this Burmese ruby, this is a perfect ruby. It's called pigeon blood red. Those of you born in July, this is your stone. Rubies are, oh my God, when you really understand what rubies can do or what rubies mean, you would be proud to say that you were born in July. I'm actually jealous in some ways, like when you understand what people think about ruby. So and in order to get back to that, you got to go to India. This is the Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal, for those of you who don't know, the Taj Mahal is actually a museum, mausoleum. It's a mausoleum. It's a tomb for one of his wives. He loved his wife. The Maharaja at that time loved his wife because he had a whole bunch of wives. But he loved this wife so much in particular that he built this for her. And when it first was built, the walls were covered in gemstones. He did this for his wife. When you understand what jewelry, you can't even talk about jewelry without talking about gemstones. Now, normally we talk about gemstones in regards to women wearing gemstones. Women wear gemstones now, we don't think nothing of it, and we see a woman wearing a beautiful. I mean, look at this choker. Oh my God, and emeralds. I mean, just the clarity of it is it's breathtaking. We talk about that, but we don't really talk about and remember when men used to wear gemstones. Far more than that. And the way that gets started, the way you have to start that conversation is in India. We can talk about this woman wearing, this is a Maharadin. It's an I. Sorry, N-I. I can't pronounce. Sorry to pronounce it. Hi, Dr. Sante. Sorry, I'm messing up the pronunciation. But a female Maharaja, the queen. Maharaja is the king. Maharaji thing is the queen. But this is her ruby choker. A whole choker made out of Burmese rubies. But look at the guys. Look at the Maharajas. Look at what this guy is wearing. See, men don't wear jewelry anywhere near the way men used to wear jewelry. Men stopped wearing jewelry like this about the beginning to the middle of the 20th century. But look at him. Look how many, again, I said if you had one pearl, you were rich. If you had a string of pearls, and I'm talking a string 5, 6, 10, look at the number of pearls this man, this king, Maharaja, has on him. I won't mention his name. I won't butcher his name, but let me tell you his story. At 35 years of age, this man, this king, this Maharaja had so much money, so many gemstones. He took a trunk. Hey guys, here you go. He took a trunk and put in that trunk 4,000 precious gemstones, 4,000, which include 2,930 diamonds, a whole bunch of Burmese rubies, and a 235 carat yellow diamond. He put that in a box, and he bought that diamond to accent it. It was the 7th largest diamond in the world. And he put it in a box, went to Paris, and he told Pierre Cartier, who was there just in India, just the first time. He met him during this is Jacques Cartier, not Pierre, Jacques Cartier, looking for gemstones. He met the Maharaja, and he went back to France. Maharaja went to France, went to Cartier and said, make me something extraordinary. Like, here you go. Use what you want to use and make me something extraordinary. And this is what he made. This is the most expensively made piece of jewelry in the world. In the world. A man did this. He wore this. This is not like just he gave it to his girl, like, hey girl, here you go. This is what he bought this for himself. And when he died, well, let me back up. The most amazing thing is this Maharaja, he had 365 wives. Why? 365 wives, and 10 of them he was actually married. They said they were out, or they was authorized wives. He had 10 authorized wives. He had 88 children, and you know he had girl children, right? He had 365 wives. He had 88 children, which 53 of them were still alive when he died. He died at 46. I mean, when you got 365 women in your life, yeah, you die a little early. Okay, and none of the girls, none of the wives got that piece of jewelry. He gave it to his son, who wore it all the time. Look at him. Just really. Now, imagine back in the day, men totally understood the power of gemstones. Totally. Look at him. His whole, and not to mention what he's wearing, but his clothes are made with silk thread, and not just silk thread, gold thread. Gold, that's real gold. That's gold and silver thread. The chain itself is not just gold, it's made out of 5 different layers of platinum. I'll let you look at look at it. 5 layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of platinum. Here's the diamond. 235 carats. The 7th largest diamond in the world. Look at the rubies right here. Look at the craftsmanship. As I said, men love gemstones. And what changed was the whole concept of what a man is. So if I was to wear something like this, you know what they would say. You know what they would say. There's no way I would be considered a man if I wore something like this. They were like, what's wrong with Barry? You know, oh, Barry is, I didn't know. You can fill in the blanks. I would have to be feminine because we attribute gemstones and jewelry like this to a woman. We don't have no problem with Marie Antoinette wearing it. We don't have no problem with Elizabeth Taylor wearing it. We don't have no problem with Nicki Minaj or J-Lo wearing something like this. But if a man wore this, there's a problem. And that's not always been the case. For hundreds and hundreds of years, men wore. Look at him. This is the sun. And you know that's not a chair from IKEA, right? You know he didn't pick that chair up at Target. That whole entire chair is made out of gold. The whole thing, his whole outfit, his whole thing. Look at the pearls. I mean, it's just spectacular. Look at this guy. Look at him. Look at the pearls. I mean, is he not cool or what? That's cool. He just looks cool. Gemstones. The power of the gemstones. Men understand, or at least they used to understand what each gemstone meant. The relationship with the gemstone. I had dinner with Dr. Santi and Dr. Santi last night, and Dr. Santi is an expert in just the relationship between music and language and culture and colors. And I'm sitting there like this, and she literally confirmed to me everything that I'm saying right now. In India, they understood the relationship between gemstones and people. Most of the stories that you have heard about a gemstone came from India. So men wore it not just for a sense of power, not for just a sense of identity. They wore it because that power that is contained in gemstones, they wanted to feel it. They wanted to touch it. Dr. Santi was explaining to me, just when you see Indian women with the silver bands around their toe, their second toe, they can never take that off because they understand. Indian people understood the relationship of gold and silver and gemstones on their skin. Look at him. Look at him. Look at his necklace. Look at this guy. And when I first saw this picture, I've seen this picture a long time ago. For some reason, I didn't really realize that all these things that look like buttons, these are not buttons. These are not big giant buttons. These are gemstones. His whole thing. Look at his. I think it's called the septor, which is the ornament on the turban. Look at it. Look at his sword. You don't use that sword to cut nothing. You just hold it because the whole sword is a gemstone. I mean, look at him. He's just sitting there like, yeah, I am all that and 2 bags of chips plus a pop. Look at him. This is what gemstones mean to men throughout history. Look at this guy. And this is a wedding. This is a wedding outfit. Look at the emerald. Look at the emeralds on his turban. So the purpose of this show today is to get people to understand this is the importance of being able to tell a story. Because most people don't know the relationship that men had with gemstones. And I got to admit, I knew it, but I didn't really manifest. It didn't really come to my heightened level of understanding now. And my 2 viewers said, what about men? Thank you, ladies. Because I have been just so excited just looking at just the relationship. Look at it. This is why guys travel the ocean. This is why guys climb mountains. This is why they went, despite the fact that, you know, Joe died, right? How'd he die? Oh, he was going to America, get an emerald, South America, get an emerald, and he died. Okay, you still going? Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, I'm going. Because they wanted that. They wanted that. The Incas called an emerald. They felt like their gods weren't outside. Their gods were inside of the emerald. So how is it a gemstone that is found in South America can mean so much to the Incas, and yet at the same time means so much to a group of people, to a civilization that was across an ocean in Spain, in India, in England. Why do you think Columbus and all his boys went to India? Because they wanted this power. They understood. Look at this. These are pearls. Look at the diamond. Look at the diamond. That diamond has got to be at least easy. Oh my God, this diamond is probably 50 carats. That's a 50 carat, and we're talking about India. They didn't wear, SI, those of you who know diamonds. There's no SI gemstone. We're talking about VVS1. We're talking about flawless. We're talking about internally flawless. D color, E color gemstones. This was their everyday gear. Look at the brooch. Look at the brooch that he's wearing. Imagine, how cool would it be just to have that brooch on your chest, and you go into a meeting, you go into a party, you go into a stockholders meeting, or you're the CEO of a company, and you walk out there like that. Man. Yeah. That's what men love gemstones. Look at this guy. This is 13th century. This is 13th century. Probably even earlier than that. Dr. Santi will tell me when I talk to her. Yeah. But we know we're not talking about the 20th century. That's for sure. Look at him. Look at the jewelry. This is what Marco Polo was absolutely blown away with when he went to in China, when he went to India. He was writing down. This is why Columbus wanted to find a new route to India, because when he read what Marco Polo wrote about gemstones, that when you walk down the street, there was like gold and diamonds and emeralds and rubies and sapphires everywhere. When he met the Maharajas, the kings, the nobles of China and India, when he went to India and saw that, I can't even imagine what he kept saying to himself. Just wow. Just wow. Like some of you are saying right now, looking at this. So imagine the power of understanding what that gemstone, the spiritual qualities of that gemstone, and you get to wear the purest versions of that every day. Everything that's in these books that I read about what a gemstone can do, this is what men did. This is what men, the kings, the queens, look at this. I mean, come on now. Really? Really? He even got the cool mustache. I got the cool mustache. At least I'm working on it. I got the mustache. I don't have any of the rest of that. Yeah. Yeah. Men have loved and have always loved gemstones. Look at the turban. That is a cognac colored. I think it was 15.7 carat diamond. The whole thing set in a platinum setting. And this is just the headpiece, the sepkur, just the headpiece. Walking out, imagine ladies walking out, men and guys walking out of your house, of your maison, of your chateau, with that on your head. Every day you put that on your head. Imagine the power that you would feel wearing that. Yeah. Tiger's eye. An ornament. And men understood that. Men understood what the power of that was. Look at it. Look at that. Round brilliance, baguette cuts, and then, of course, the diamond. Look at the clarity of the diamond. He wore that on his head. A Maharaja wore that on his head. So when you understand the power of what a diamond does, now the diamond, the reason why royal people wore, the royals and the princes and kings, they wore these gemstones is because they wanted a direct connection to powers far above them. They recognize their power and they use gemstone to transport their power, to exchange their power with the power of the gods. And it was expected to have that level of transmission, to have that level of connection. Look at this ruby. This was not for a woman. This is for a man. This ruby, this ladies, I left this for you at the last. This ladies, all of you born in July, guys born in July, this is your ruby. This is your necklace. Ladies don't get this. This is, this time we're going to give it to the guys. This is your necklace. Imagine wearing that with a cold suit and tie, and you walk out the door. And the ruby is a gemstone of courage. A ruby is a gemstone that activates the blood. A ruby is a gemstone that brings synchronicity to your life. That's what it says a ruby does. And imagine you wearing this, gentlemen, and you're going to a business meeting. You're going to close a deal. Imagine wearing this every day. There you go. That's what men understood about gemstones. That's why men love gemstones, because they understood it. We've lost it. A lot of men, most men never even think on these terms that they could wear something like this. But that's a cultural thing. The culture changed, but the power of it hasn't changed. Has not changed. I know rappers and things like this are starting to get more into bigger pieces, things like this, but even still then, some don't understand what this means, what the metaphysical aspects. And ladies and gentlemen, when I say metaphysical, I want you to understand, I didn't believe in this at all. I was like, man, this is hocus pocus. And it's like, yeah, okay, I believe in science. This is aluminum oxide. But over the years, I started to see what the connection is. There has to be something. It has to be more than that because of what men did to get this. What did they do to get it? Because they believed in the power of this. Look at this. Look at the beauty of it. All these are top of the line rubies. All of them. All of them. Look at the diamond. Look how many. If I was appraising this, oh my God, you could spend a whole day just appraising and measuring the diamonds and the clarity and the cut. All day, just on this one piece. And a man wore this because it symbolized power. It gave him power, all from this little piece of stone. So, as I always say, each and every week for the last 3 years, nothing has value without a story. And the more you understand the story of something, the more you understand what it does for you, how you can take that story and apply it to yourself. You can take, if something can exist for 8,000, 10,000 years, if the story and the belief of that can last that long, then what can it do for you? How can it empower you? Never let someone take your story. Don't let someone take your story. No matter how minuscule it might be, the change or whatever, don't let them take your story because it's your story. And as you can see, even people hundreds of years, thousands of years for Indian people wearing jewelry like that. But here now in the 21st century, nobody even remembers. Nobody even remembers. So always your homework assignment today or this week until we meet next week is to sit down with a piece of paper and think about what your value is. Not just what your value is, but what value do you have that has been forgotten? You know, remember you used to be able to play basketball or do something or cook. What value have you forgotten? What value, what attribute, what characteristic that you have that has been forgotten over time? Because guess what? Just like now, guys, all watching this show now understand the relationship that men had with gemstones. You can get to the point where you understand the relationship that you have with your gift and with your talent, and you can bring it back again. So, as always, my name is Barry B. Mixon. I am a gemological storyteller. And take the things that you have in your life, recognize it, what it is, what it does for you, and discover the value of your own stories. So until next week, until our next adventure, au revoir, atatella, voila. Here's a gem bit. According to Marco Polo, Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan and the emperor of all of China, wanted a large ruby so badly that he was willing to trade an entire city for one. Man, I hope that wasn't for a birthday gift. I mean, what's he going to do next year? I'm just saying, discover the value of your story.